Well, our good friends in the Taxation Department include friends both in the New South Wales Revenue Service and also the Commonwealth. And increasingly over the last few years, the incidence of taxation concerning options has become far more complicated. It's very important that the developer get this right at the beginning, and at Osborne's we have a thorough experience in the taxation consequences of options. Starting with stamp duty, or what's now called duty, generally no duty is payable for entering into an option. But once you start to deal with the option, for example, if you sell it at the end, then duty is payable on the price of the sale of the option, and particularly in the last few years, if the call option is linked with a put option, which is a right for the landowner to require the developer to buy the land, then the duty consequences of that become very dire indeed. And in fact, if the call option is linked to a put option, it effectively means it's not possible to sell the developer's rights in the option without paying essentially 2 rounds of duty on the full price of the property. So that's something that needs to be considered carefully by the developer's advisor, and at Osborne's we can provide advice on those issues. And on the Commonwealth side, GST needs to be considered for options. Normally, if the developer is approaching mums and dads in their homes and buying residential dwellings, GST won't be payable, but it's a complex issue, and if the land's going to be developed in the process before the option is exercised, the GST status of the property can change, and that needs to be considered. And then, of course, the other issue that's come in since 2016 is capital gains tax withholding. There is an obligation on a developer in certain circumstances to withhold a portion of the call option fee and pay it to the Australian Taxation Office in certain circumstances, and that issue needs to be addressed. Assigning options again illustrates the very technical nature of options and the need to get things right. You know, a developer, for a number of reasons, may wish to sell their rights under the option to another developer and take a profit from the transaction at that stage. That's very common for young and new developers to do that, and it's quite difficult to document the assignment of the option. It's important that you get all the technical aspects right. At Osborne's we act for both buyers and sellers of options. Naturally enough, their considerations are not the same, their interests are not the same, but you need to make sure that you've covered off on some fundamental things to make sure the deal is effected. Particularly, you've got to make sure that the buyer of the option is armed with everything that they need in order to exercise the option.